I used to hear in school to never sleep with a mirror facing your bed. People said that mirrors were portals to other dimensions and realities. I always thought it was a load of rubbish. How could a mirror, a simple reflection, be the gateway to something so powerful? Like I was saying, it was something kids in my class used to talk about, but I never actually gave it a second thought until now. I'm a 20-year-old who moved out of my parents' house, living it up in the Big Apple. Ironic how they can call it the Big Apple, yet I have to walk 10 miles to get fruit that isn't coated in additives and preservatives. Not like I can afford the good fruits anyway. I'm yet to start my job as a magazine editor for Elle International. It's been my desire since I was little. Now you might be saying to yourself, yeah right, which 5-year-old tells their parents, Mummy, Daddy, I wish to be glued to a desk and screen while my stuck-up boss demands more words than a dictionary. Sort of similar, but the matter of fact is, I love to write and express, whether it's about which grass seed gives you the most flourishing yard or how inflation can put a halt on all things good. This was just what I was born to do, and why not put it somewhere I can be noticed? I'm ready to take a bite of the Big Apple. You know how I said I had to walk 10 miles just to get some fruit? Well, I had to talk myself up to it yesterday. I was scrolling online and I saw the most scrumptious looking blueberry pie, and I had a sudden urge to become a baker for the day. Mind you, I have never baked anything in my life. I was up for the challenge. The streets were so empty and ominous. Almost like everyone was still asleep. Very odd. There was one person I did walk past, well, more like collided with, distracted by my device and not looking at where I was going. Classic younger generational problems. I started apologizing profusely, picking up his things and smoothing myself out. But he didn't say a word. As I stood upright, I reached his eye level and saw such a low and dreadful gaze. He also had a smudge of red on his left cheek. A feeling of despair fell upon me like he was looking through to my soul. We stayed like this for a second, and then he continued following his path. Utterly confused and quite frankly, annoyed, I stood there in a state of disbelief. I brushed it off as quickly as I could. He was probably just having a bad day, I thought to myself. After collecting my thoughts and adjusting my scarf, which was barely holding onto my neck, I continued on with my quest. I passed the corner of 6th and 8th and was met with a revolting smell, absolutely unbearable. I pulled my scarf up to my nose, holding in my gags and dry retches. My eyes were watering and almost burning from the utter stench. It's not something I've ever smelled before. The mixture of extreme off fruit with a mixture of unmedicated toe fungus filled the streets. I looked around to see if anyone was around before pushing forward through this smog of stench. Using my arm as a shield against my burning eyes, I ventured forward along the concrete walkway. A bright glimmer catches my eye and I squint and strain my face. The damn sun better pays for my opticals if it keeps up with this blindness situation. I notice the gleaming is coming from a mirror just outside a shop with a bright red sale sticker plastered across it. By now the stench had weirdly cleared and I was more intrigued with this mirror. It was antique, had gold detailing, and was simply beautiful. I needed a mirror for my new apartment as I was living off my phone's front camera, and for some reason, New York apartments don't come with their own mirrors. Maybe I was just ripped off. This was a great deal though. $100 for a floor-length reflection of myself. I thought it'd be a perfect fit right next to my bed, just under the shelving on the wall. Of course, being in New York, I had no car, so I'd have to get it delivered. That's another $100 gone. Expensive 10-mile blueberries were no longer in my budget. The following week I had it delivered and taken up to my room. It fits perfectly in my room. It was just the thing I was missing to really pull everything together, and I looked great in it, even snapping a few pics for the gram. Apparently I was on way too much, according to my parents. That night the sun set over the city in a deep orange that I could have watched for my entire life. I was so happy where I was, ready to start my perfect future. I was already in my pajamas and brushing my teeth, making sure I was refreshed for work the next day. Just as I rinsed my mouth of my toothpaste debris, the god-awful smell wafted just under my nose. What the fuck, I thought to myself. My first rationale was the plumbing, but I was certain it wasn't. How could it be? It had that awful fermented fruit tinge that the street had a week ago. I pinched my nose and ignited all the candles in my place. It smelled like a lush shop explosion, but it was better than it was before. I snuggled into bed and pulled up my heated comforter. God, did I love that thing. It was heavy as hell though. I struggled every time I adjusted it, but it was cozy. For some reason, I woke at 3:24 a.m., an unholy hour. I rubbed my eyes and hugged my body, letting out a harsh groan. It was bloody freezing. After my eyes adjusted to the darkness of my room, I noticed that my comforter was draped across my floor, not even close to my bed. Now, let me inform you that I sleep like a rock. Not even a bomb could wake me up. There's no way, with the weight of it, that I somehow moved enough in my sleep that it fell off. No way, I kept thinking to myself. I shuffled off my bed and stomped over to it, heaving it off the ground with the minuscule amount of energy I had. In doing so, I noticed that my wooden floors now had this massive red stain. I quietly cursed to myself, thinking it must have been some sort of mold rotting through the floors. As if things weren't annoying enough, the bloody smell was still lingering. At this point, I didn't even care. I just wanted to go back to sleep. As I shut my eyes, a soft upward force made me wobble on the bed. It felt like a spring had just broke and I was fuming. I just wanted to sleep. I lay flat on my stomach and lowered my head off the side of the mattress, slowly peeking back the bed sheets, showing the space between the floor and my bed frame. There were a lot of boxes, a lot of shoes, but ultimately, a whole lot of nothing. I sat back up and met my eyes in the mirror. The dim room, only illuminated by the streetlights, gives an eerie feel. That sense of despair washed over me again as I looked deeper into the mirror. I swore I could just make out a face in the corner of it. I inched closer to the mirror while squinting my eyes, locked into this darkness. Suddenly, I heard a loud thud like boxes falling over. My body jerked around and I rested my hand on my heart. I could feel my pulse pounding on my hand and in my ears. It was a noise that carried through from the kitchen. "Hello? Is someone there?" I called out in my panicked state. But I was met with no response. My heart was now in my throat as I struggled to swallow. The one thing I hated about living alone was that I had to check out the scary noises. I had to be the one to walk through my empty apartment, or so I hoped it was empty. I hesitantly started towards the door, reached for the handle, and gave it a slow twist, trying to make as little noise as possible. I pulled the door towards my body, shielding myself and only allowing my gaze to see what was behind it. I came to a halt. That darn door. Whoever was in my apartment definitely knew I was there. I steadied my breathing and continued opening it. At first, I saw nothing but darkness and the subtle glow of my fish tank. I waited a couple more seconds before stepping out into the gloom of the kitchen. I didn't have a big kitchen, but it had a bench behind which any crackhead intruder could be lurking, waiting for idiot me to stumble upon them. "Shut up," I mumbled to myself. I was thinking these crazy thoughts and just scaring myself even more. To my surprise, there was no one there. I searched my apartment top to bottom, but all I found was a tipped-over box and a broken picture frame. It had a picture of me at my graduation with my parents. I loved that photo. I quickly cleaned up the glass fragments and even triple-checked my locks and windows just to be safe and put myself at ease. I wasn't going to end up like one of those girls on the news who gets murdered in her own home. I crawled back into bed, trying to think of anything else, anything at all, but my brain kept coming back to the face in the mirror. It was like one of those messed up faces people use for Halloween, the ones that have an unrealistic amount of blood dripping down. I told myself to pull it together. I had work early in the morning, and I just needed to sleep. I closed my eyes forcefully and hushed my thoughts. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. I repeated to myself over and over again, just as my body finally started to relax. This time I reached for my phone instantly and turned on my flashlight. I was prepared. I shined the light across the room. Nothing. I checked under the bed again, but nothing. The mirror. It was coming from the mirror. The awful smell was stronger than ever now, almost insufferable. I had to resist throwing up all over my floors. I took a couple of steps and was met with my reflection. The tapping had ceased. The face was still there, in the corner. I turned around in one quick motion, but nothing. I thought I was going insane. I turned back towards the mirror, and it was gone. The silence gave me chills up my spine as I looked past myself into the mirror, waiting for something, someone. I turned around again, but there was nothing, only darkness. I grew tired and told myself to go back to bed. Shaken up, I took a deep breath and opened my phone. A notification from the local news app was on my lock screen. Young woman murdered in her own home. Do we have a monster among us? I opened the article, oblivious to who it could be. I paused. My eyes widened as I read my own name. Me? I read more and more I couldn't look away. This young lady had such big dreams and hopes. She was taken tragically by an unknown criminal police are yet to catch. She was stabbed to death in the early hours of the morning. I sat down, trying to figure out what the fuck I just read. How could it be me? I was alive. I was here. I looked up to meet the mirror. I was covered in blood. For more chilling stories, like and subscribe.